Williamsville Sports Weekly is brought to you by your local country financial representative, Ed Legner. Please contact Ed for all your insurance and financial planning needs. His office is located at 318 Crossing Drive in Sherman, and he can be reached at 217-496-2341. But for now, enjoy the show. Welcome to Williamsville Sports Weekly, an in-depth look at both BB and Bullet athletics, hosted by our athletic director Adam Euchre and former Lady Bullets basketball coach John Hampton.
Welcome to episode 95 of Williamsville Sports Weekly, presented by Ed Legner, Country Insurance Financial Representative out of Sherman, Illinois. You can visit Ed for all your insurance and financial needs. John, we're at least a little bit ahead of where we were last week when we recorded, because I actually hit the record button this time. We're in the middle of recording last time. We got interrupted and picked up our conversation right where we left off, and I thought I hit record. I went to edit, and it wasn't there. So you know, the goal is always to get better each day, and we're better than we were last time. But looking at it, this is episode 95. Been doing this now for 4 years, and to only have that happen one time, that's pretty good.
Yeah, that's actually, if I'd have been doing it, it'd happen a lot more. But it's at least we got your insight on there. You got to re-record, so we'll be good.
Yeah. So that's what happens with technology, but we're ready to go this week. And, the big story this week, and pretty much all spring's been this weather. Very mild winter, hardly any snow. And what was interesting, they said that they were really worried about groundwater. Well, obviously that's taken care of with the amount of rain we've gotten over the last 2 weeks. But what's amazing is, and I talked about this with Coach Ashbaugh in the next segment when I recorded yesterday, they haven't had any games canceled all season. We've been able to get them in. It's just been kind of how it's been able to fall has been really good. Now, the bad thing is practice has been inside, but they played Normal Community at the Porta Slam last week, and that was April 1st, and that was Normal Community's first game of the season. That's absolutely amazing that based on what we've had no varsity softball games canceled up to this point.
Yeah, I wouldn't have bet on that at all, with the rain we've had. And a lot of it has to do with our facility, and we do play, especially with our early season schedule, we travel to some kind of state powers, and one common denominator besides being good is usually those type of programs have really good fields, and they take a lot of pride and they take care of them. So I would assume we're playing in those type of facilities, and obviously that lends itself to getting the games in.
Well, and then too, we can move things over here because of that, and the infield that we have on both baseball and softball. So, but it amazed me that when she said that, that we haven't had any canceled.
That's crazy.
Now we've had some JV stuff, but varsity-wise, that's pretty amazing. Because basketball, you really don't have to worry about that when you were coaching.
Oh gosh, no.
I mean, you're inside now. If there was like an ice storm or a snowstorm, things would be canceled. But that's never an issue with indoor sports.
Yeah, and even when I first started teaching, I helped with football a couple years, and boy, we'd get in the playoffs, and my thought would be like, man, I'm so glad I'm more of a basketball coach because it gets so cold outside and stuff. But what's funny is, like, of course, you can't play every sport in every season, but, man, our best weather around here is in the fall, and that's when we play volleyball indoors. And you even see people complain it's too hot in the gyms in September. It'd be really nice if we could play our outdoor sports maybe in the fall. And really the way our springs are until you get to mid to late May, maybe some of our indoor sports should be in the spring, but I understand you can't flip that stuff around. But it's kind of weird, especially with girls sports that way.
So, and I think it's just an ingrained culture.
Yeah, absolutely.
Baseball's a spring thing, football's a fall.
Yep.
So, but it is a great point being made. Moving into baseball, they're undefeated right now, just like softball, having another banner year up to this point. But big injury on Tuesday night. Joe Rossetti goes down into a knee-to-knee injury, and hopefully, things will turn out okay. But thinking back to when you were coaching, you lose a key player like that, probably the best defensive player we've had. He's pitched a little bit this year, hottest bat at this point. How do you get the team to overcome that? When you lose, a top player and a leader like that, and understand that, hey, it's next person up at this point.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is trying to get across to them that it is the next guy up, but the next guy up doesn't have to replace that person's production. It's everyone just does a little bit more, and in the way that program is built with baseball, it is kind of a next man up mentality, and I understand no one's going to come in and replace him, but at the same time, if everyone just plays a little crisper, makes one less mistake, maybe they execute a little bit better, then they'll be able to kind of cover up for it. The problem is when you lose a really good player is in any sport is when those big moments come up, that's usually when the best player on the field tends to be, make their presence felt, and that would be an issue. But in baseball, maybe not as much because, in basketball, I always used to say a team with the best player usually wins. But that's because you have 5 guys out there, everybody's touching the ball or possession, all that kind of stuff. So it may be a little easier. I know it's going to be tough to replace him if they have to replace him. But if you just try to get across there by everyone just be a little bit better. We don't have to have one person come in and take this big weight on their shoulders. One person just get a little bit better. We lost Mike Tisdale the last 10 games of the regular season of his senior year. We went 7-3, and I was really proud of the kids because really no one started jacking shots up and stuff. We kind of stayed within the system, and that's kind of an equivalent, with Rossetti here. He's one of the best players in the area, and I know Coach will handle it well, and the team will handle it well. He's got a lot of veteran players on the team.
Well, it's a real similar situation. Pennell goes out.
Oh yeah.
I don't know if it was the regional.
Regional final.
It was the regional final against
Yep.
Pittsfield. Last 2 minutes goes out, and those kids stepped up. And Sexton. We talked about that huge, but that's obviously more of a microcosm with just one game versus him being out probably over 2 weeks. But still, it's an example of that happening this year already.
Yeah, and in baseball, you said he's a great defensive player. We know he's a good offensive player, but maybe they allow one more run a game. We'll score one more. If the margin of victory has been 5 a game, well, now maybe it's only 4, but we're still winning games. And that was kind of mindset. I think we were averaging about 60 a game, giving up 40. Well, now maybe we score 50, but let's keep giving up 40. It may not be as dominant of wins, but there's still ways to win.
Well, and it goes back to where these kids that are coming up, they've had experience. Let it be maybe the JV level, but we're getting them games where maybe other programs, they've been riding the pine for a various reason or another.
Well, no doubt. I mean, we've had a kid playing shortstop all spring, getting innings. I'm assuming he plays short for us.
I think so, yeah.
And so, but we haven't had the backup shortstop hasn't been sitting on the bench all spring. Maybe the backup shortstop's been playing JV ball, getting innings in, getting a lot of experience where maybe we can move him up, or that would now be the backup who's had experience this year. So I totally agree. Those JV games are unbelievable as far as like helping our baseball program out. I mean, they're a huge advantage for our baseball program. And we get a lot of freshman games into it.
Yep. So we wish Joe, a speedy recovery and hope to see him, in about a week and a half if everything goes okay. Last thing I want to touch on here before we get into the interview with head coach Mindy Ashbaugh of the Lady Bolt softball program, and then our 4 seniors, Callie Sharp, Megan Hall, Caitlin Termine, and Caitlin Womack. This morning in Captain's Council, Coach Coons presented to the group and talked about critics. And one of the things you look at is, people can be very critical of sports, which isn't, a new concept. It's kind of a lightning rod for controversy. That's why probably talk radio is so huge in sports. But, our softball program has always had high expectations. But, the one thing that Coach Coons touched on this morning is they came off of a state title run in 2014, had this unbelievable streak of regular season victories, and the next year they kind of slid off a little bit. Soccer's going through the same thing right now. Thinking back to when you were coaching, did you touch on that with the kids, not listening to the critics and just kind of staying, middle of the road, don't want to get too high, don't want to get too low, because, obviously there's, with this junior class of softball being the main core of players, there's a huge expectation of them getting to state. That's what it is. They won as junior high, and they've been very good. Soccer, they've kind of slipped a little bit. They had the state run last year, and now they're not performing as well for a variety of reasons. Injuries, graduation of some key players. So you're seeing 2 different sides of that coin there right now.
And kind of one of the buzzwords now in sports is, trust the process. You hear coaches say that all the time, trust the process. And you've got to try to get your kids to do that, like every day, be like, okay, this is what we're doing, this is where we're headed for. Obviously, the goal of the softball team is to win the state championship, but you got to let them enjoy the successes along the way. That can't be how you measure your season. It just can't be. I mean, otherwise, you win it, and really there's not as much joy, even if that's been your focal point the whole year. It's almost like you just take a deep breath and exhale, and you're like, okay, that's great, we won. You got to find a way to make to make each little success a big deal and fun for them. Because trust me, many, many, many years we had high expectations, and I learned after the first year, I mean, you're very successful, but if you don't win the whole thing and the kids feel like they failed, they didn't fail. They didn't fail me. They didn't fail themselves. They didn't fail their family, their school. Critics can be critics, but if they want to get in there and do the blood, sweat, and tears with us, they would realize that there's a lot of successes that happen beyond that scoreboard or beyond that how far you get in that postseason. And if you keep telling your kids that and keep pointing it out to the kids, they'll trust you and they'll believe you. And we've got great kids and great parents here, and they see that. And you just sometimes you just got to, like you said, shut out the outside people, because if you're not on your way up, those same people are going to ignore you on your way down. You just got to understand there's some people that care about you, and we would preach that. There's people that care about you. They're in this gym, and when you go home, they're in your house. And you take care of those people and their expectations first, and everything else will work itself out. But yeah, you just can't make one goal that be all in, even if it's just win the conference. And you didn't have a bad season. You've got to make each little goal, each success. And I think that's why a lot of coaches will have their team create goals. And I pluralize that on purpose, not a goal for the season, but goals, so that you do reach some of these goals that are achievable. And the kids know what's achievable. And you just got to really stress that, this is why there's reasons why we're here, and it's not just to win a state title or win a conference or go 500 or whatever. And you got to take care of who you can take care of. That's your teammates, your coaches, your school, and obviously your parents and your family. And beyond that, you can't control it.
And you've hit on that before. A success for one team may be a regional title. Mm-hmm. Another one may just be a conference. Kind of those goals are different every year. And it's important to have those individual goals too, so every player can feel like they accomplished something as well.
Absolutely. And you got to set realistic goals. And that goes both ways. Sometimes you can't just set such a low goal that there's no really, sense of satisfaction. You got to be sensible with what you're talking about, and that's a team meeting. That's let your kids talk, and then coaches talk with the kids or the leaders, and you set those goals, and you'd like to achieve them, but along the way you want to learn and you want to have fun, and I mean that's just what it's all about. And these people that aren't involved in this don't understand that. Just like I don't understand sometimes, when a boss makes a decision, or any of us at work, until you're in that position, you don't understand what's going on. As a student, you don't understand why a teacher does things a certain way. Until you're at that level, you just got to trust the process. And here, I'd say our process is pretty good. So we have a lot of people that trust in it, and you can't fight the critics. If it's somebody within the circle, maybe you step back and look at yourself, talk to them, and maybe you do change a little bit. But if it's somebody that's not involved, then that's just their opinion. You move on.
Great insight, and the kids got a great lesson this morning. And I know even Coach Ashbaugh talks about that in the next segment as we kind of hit on that, of helping the kids deal with those expectations. So, as always, you can follow us on Twitter at WCSD15 Sports for all your news and score updates on both BB and Bullet athletics throughout the 16-17 school year. Obviously on Facebook as well, facebook.com/WHS Bullets. Connect not only with the athletic department, but the high school as well for all the happenings here at WHS. And obviously this podcast, Williamsville Sports Weekly. Subscribe to us on iTunes, where this can come to your podcast feed every single week. Also, rate and review us. Share it with your friends and family so they can enjoy what's going on here in Bullet Nation as well. If you're not on iTunes, you can get this on the main page of the website, WCSD15.org. Click on Athletics on the left-hand side of the page. This episode, as well as the past 94 episodes, are available, or on our YouTube page. Just search for Williamsville Sports Weekly. This, as well as all of our great videos that our kids have produced this season, are up there as well. When we return, we'll be joined by head softball coach for the Lady Bullets, Mindy Ashbaugh.
Next time you're in the market for insurance or financial planning, stop by and see Country Financial Representative Ed Legner at 318 Crossing Drive in Sherman, or give him a call at 217-496-2341. And now, back to the show.
Williamsville Sports Weekly presented by Ed Legner, Country Insurance Financial Representative in Sherman, Illinois. You can visit Ed for all your insurance and financial needs. Sitting with us right now, second-year head coach for the Lady Bullets, Mindy Ashbaugh, and obviously we're getting used to this outside right now. Already had to cancel a game as we were supposed to take on Warrensburg in a non-conference game today, but this is almost getting commonplace this spring. And looking ahead to at least the beginning of next week, which we'll talk about Monday, you have a huge game with some big postseason implications. This has just become normal for this particular season. But talking with Coach Butchery earlier today, he said one thing that's been hard for them, I'm sure it's the same thing with you guys, is getting in a rhythm, being outside consistently. What do you kind of do to break up this monotony, or I mean, not being able to have like a routine almost? One day you're outside, next day you're inside. Like today you're going to be inside again.
Well, I mean, we're kind of in a weird situation. We've actually gotten in all of our games. We showed up on Saturday to the Porta tournament, and we had played 7 games, and we played normal community, and that was their first game of the season. So somehow the days have just fallen where we've been able to play our games, but then when we turn around and we need to practice, we're stuck inside. And that's almost, I think, worse than maybe getting rained out of a game and being able to practice outside. So we've just tried to work a lot. We've been in the cages a lot inside. We've done a lot of hitting stations, a lot of tee work, which you can never do too much of that. But I think where we are really trying to find ways to compromise or to compensate, I guess, is working on defense and working on some of those things that you can't really replicate full scale in the gym. Also, getting our outfielders the work that they need has been really difficult when you're stuck inside. So it hasn't been easy. I know we're all really tired of practicing inside. We played yesterday, and even though we had just played on Friday night and we played 3 games on Saturday, the girls were saying it feels like we haven't played in forever. And I think it's because we were stuck inside practicing the day before. It just feels like we haven't been outside at all. So it has not been easy, but we're in the same boat as everybody else.
Now you talk about the beginning of April, because Saturday was April 1st, first game of the season for normal community.
It was.
And obviously you talked to their coach about that probably. Is that just because of how their schedule's set up? Or do they not reschedule? What's kind of the thing there? Because that's a big thing we do here is we fight to get these games in where we can.
And I don't know if the weather, maybe they're just far enough north that the weather had been different up there. I'm not sure. I know they were supposed to have played at least 2. He told me 2 of the teams that they were supposed to have played that they bumped now to this week. And they'd only been outside for practice 4 times, which practice-wise we're probably comparable, but somehow we managed to get in. I don't know if it's just the luck of the days that it rained. But yeah, I was shocked. He was pretty frustrated.
Now, you talk about working on defense, and you said that's kind of an area where you really feel like you need to be focusing on it. And I would think that, where you guys had been at and looking at last year's team, we'll talk about how you guys ended it in a second, but the big question coming into the season is would we be able to get big runs and get big innings? And that's really been almost like your strong suit, where you guys have just been, hitting the tar out of the ball. Has that been a surprise for you where it's, that has really come through so far this early in the season?
Well, we had no doubt that we had a strong lineup. I think all the way through, even to our non-starters who we can pull in off the bench. I think we felt really, really confident in our batting lineup, whichever way we were going to put it together. But like I said, being inside does lend itself to a lot of extra reps in the cage, a lot of extra bunting practice, tee work, timing, that sort of thing. So that has to probably be a contributing factor. Also, I know that, the girls just in general have worked really, really hard in the off season to get stronger. And I think that that's really, really noticeable when they're batting, when they're hitting. They're taking the outside pitch to right field, where last year I don't know that we were strong enough to really do that consistently. But just little fine-tuned things like that, I see huge improvements on as far as, our offense goes.
Now, you talk about being able to be inside in the cages. How fortunate are we to have those type of facilities when you talk to other schools? Because obviously, we have a great cage outside that the boosters helped us, revamp by putting the field turf in. But having these cages inside, how much does that help?
It's unbelievable, really, and not even just having the cages inside, but having the 2 gyms that we can use to split our groups and have, half of the group hitting in the back gym, pitchers throwing in the back gym, the other half working on, short game stuff or defensive type things, or just drill work, sprints and things like that in the front gym. Being able to have 2 spaces and the stuff that we have at our disposal to use equipment wise has just been, especially in a season like this where you're inside a lot, has been amazing. I don't know if other schools are lucky to have what we have, but I feel very fortunate to be able to have that at our disposal.
Now, going back to last year, obviously last year leaving a sour taste not only in your mouth, but the 2 seniors we lost in Joy Miller and Kaylee Burton, but also this group. And you look at it, and we were talking before we started recording this here about really how young we were last year. 2 seniors last year. And now this year we have 4 seniors, and really this junior class has kind of been the core, which we'll talk about in a second. But go back to that Gillespie game, and I have my own opinions in terms of how that game turned, which we won't talk about here on the air.
Can't do anything about it now.
But in terms of what you learned from that and what kind of motivation and focus that brought for this season, do you think it was better to lose at that point and be where we're at right now?
Well, I don't. Obviously, you don't ever want to lose, but I think that we did learn a lot from it. And going off of your comment about us being a young team last year, we had a lot of girls. I mean, every girl on the field last year for that Gillespie game has played a lot of softball in their day. I mean, they've played a lot of softball in their life up until they're 15, 16 years old. But what we didn't have, even though they have hundreds of games under their belt, was kind of that postseason experience and that mentality of there aren't any do-overs. We can't redo something that either we didn't execute correctly or whatever the case may be in that particular game. But I think that having made that run and then having it end the way that it did, not only served as motivation, but it also served as a learning experience. And if you ask any one of those girls who were involved in that game this year, I think that they'll tell you that that as much as, of course, nobody wants to lose, you always want to win in advance. I think it is going to help us down the road.
Now, you talk about them not necessarily not having softball experience, but experience in that big stage.
Right.
And the big thing I know that you and I have talked about is the big difference between like summer ball and school ball with that pressure of, once you get to the postseason, it's one and done.
There's no next time.
It's not a tournament next Saturday.
Right. Yeah, and we've talked about that a lot this year. That summer ball and winter ball, it's a lot different than the school season. It's probably just as long, but it's much more short in the sense that you play in weekend spurts. And so you may play 4 or 5 or 6 games, and you may win the tournament or you may not, but then the next weekend you start over again. And it was getting them to understand that, we have to do all of these things. Everything we do matters. And when we get to that final point, whatever it's going to be, once we enter the postseason, that we don't get to come back next weekend, or we don't get to go into the losers bracket. We're done if we don't do our job and if we don't play better than our opponent. And so I think the girls absolutely understand that and respect it and realize it now, because the feeling that we had last year when we ended up in the outfield after that Gillespie game, it's not something that they're going to forget, and definitely not something that they're going to want to experience again. And I think that it's really, really motivated them this year.
Now, the one, I guess I don't know if it'd be benefit or I don't even know what word it is. I can't think of the right adjective right now. But you've been with this group of girls for 6-7 years now. The seniors been with them for 7. The juniors was for 6 years. So you know them kind of inside and out. And one thing I know that you've really talked about is keeping them loose and making sure that they don't feel this pressure, that there's this expectation. Because when a team wins, like at the junior high level, there's this expectation that they're never going to lose in high school. They're going to win state every year. But what have you been able to do as a coach to make them realize that you can't focus on what we've done before. It's what's in front of us now moving forward.
Right. Well, I mean, fortunately for me, this group already knows that. I don't think that I've ever gotten the feeling from any of them that anything is going to be automatic. That's what's so great about them, is that they are continuously striving to be better than they were. And they know, they'll tell you that none of that matters. It was a great accomplishment, but it's in the past, and none of that's going to matter for what we're trying to do right now. It is really, really fun to be able to continue to coach the juniors and the seniors, having had them since they were in 6th grade in junior high. But I think we've done a really good job of kind of staying grounded and staying focused and realizing that nobody, quite frankly, cares what you've done in the past. And that if you don't go out and do your job and execute and do what you're supposed to do, that you might not come away being the victor. So I think that they've done a really good job of grounding themselves. And I haven't seen any of that from them, which makes them really easy to coach. They kind of keep each other in check too, I think.
Now, does that kind of go along with the quote that you guys had this year? It's like, I don't know if it's like forever is now.
Forever starts now.
So kind of talk to us about that and what that means and where that came up with and how it relates so good to this group.
So last year our quote was, "We want more," because of the way that our season ended the previous year, super sectional. And then, so the girls were kind of wanting to know, like, what's our quote this year? What are we going to do this year? So I guess it's kind of turned into a tradition now. So we sat the girls down in the front gym of the high school after the first day of practice, and we kind of looked at the banners that are up on the wall from the previous state appearances with Coach Grebner and Coach Allen, and looked at the names and things like that. And being a small town and a town that's really, really rich in their softball traditions, there are lots of people on the wall who have direct relations to the girls that are on our team, whether it's cousins or aunts or sisters or, whatever the case may be. And we kind of said to them, this is your chance for your forever to start, because those banners on the wall, that's forever. And we kind of alluded back to, your summer season, and that, you win these tournaments in the summer and in the winter, and that's great, and that all helps you prepare for school ball. But not really too many people are going to remember, what if you won the 4th of July shootout or whatever, but they're going to always remember, that you were a championships team at Williamsville High School. And knowing that a lot of these kids have ties to the community, the chances that they're going to have a younger sibling in the high school, or a cousin down the road, or a niece or a nephew, or maybe even their kids, that's going to be there forever, and that's what people are going to remember, and that's what we want them to be a part of. And so that's kind of where we got our forever starts now, that on that first day of practice, our forever, so our banner and what we can accomplish, starts right now.
Obviously, as we record this, it's April 5th. Hopefully, our season doesn't end until June 2nd.
Yep.
But it's a long road to get there. Looking right now, what are you guys going to continue to have to do in order to meet that goal and get to that forever point?
I think we're just going to have to continue just doing the basics. We talk all the time about doing the easy stuff. Take care of what you can take care of. We have gotten really, really good at executing our, bunts when we need to get a bunt down, taking the extra base when we can. I think we just have to continue kind of doing those things and making those really, really natural and really common. And I think the rest is just going to take care of itself. And when we do have a bad day or when we do have a bad game, just continuing to realize that it's not the end of the world. The thing is, we have to learn from it. What can we learn from this in order to get better for tomorrow? And that's kind of where we are, just one game at a time, stay the course, kind of slow and steady, no ups and downs and peaks and valleys like you talk about sometimes. And it's hard because you have all these quote unquote, big games or important games or big schools that you're playing on your schedule. Probably the toughest thing for us is to just keep reminding ourselves that it doesn't matter who we play. We still have to show up, and we still have to field the ball, throw the ball, hit the ball, and then leave it all on the field. don't have any regrets. Don't wish you would have dove for the ball or wish you would have gotten your bunt down. Just try and execute.
It all goes back to that process and focusing on that process, because if you trust in your process,
Right.
things will tend to work out in the long run if you stay with that.
Yeah, and we're really, really lucky talking about trust, that these girls have each other to fall back on. And so that's another thing that we've kind of emphasized is if you aren't having your best day, you have 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 people around you who can come in and pick you up. So we have that luxury too of having some people maybe aren't on the starting card, but can come in. We've already had to do this several times this year, come in off the bench and pinch run, tag up on a fly ball and score, come in and get a hit, go into the outfield. We've had all of those scenarios already with our non-starters. So that's been a nice luxury to have too.
And you talked about that a little bit with, the one thing you appreciate is everyone kind of understands their role on their team.
Yep.
You have four seniors, and obviously, with this talented junior class, they kind of take some of those positions. And talk to us about how the seniors and them doing that and it kind of, accepting whatever role they have has really helped with the leadership and the future of the program.
Yeah, I just can't even say enough about the senior leadership that we have on our team. And I'm not just talking from a softball, athletic standpoint, but just as a leader and as a person, we are really, really lucky to have the 4 seniors that we have who have embraced whatever role they have on any given day, and accepted that and bought in and have set the tone and kind of set the example even for our younger JV players to see kind of how they respond, if to adversity, maybe if they were in the lineup and now they're not, or they don't get to come in until the 3rd inning, or they don't get into a particular game at all. They just really, really have bought in, and they've really set a really high, I think, expectation, and it's been a really great thing for our JV players to be able to witness too.
And that's another example of your forever too, of what kind of impact you can leave on the program.
Absolutely.
Now, the last thing that I want to talk about before we wrap this up here, you said you don't like to focus on who you play and,
Right.
and who these big games are. But I think the one thing that is, our reputation, and it precedes you and I in terms of what Williamsville softball is. But then it allows us as a school of under 500 kids, where big schools want to play us.
Yes.
We play Washington. We start out the season with Olympia. We're going up to U High, and we're going to Morton to play U High and Morton.
Yeah.
And even at the JV level with the schedule we've built with playing bigger schools,
Yeah.
East Peoria, Notre Dame, Bloomington, all these schools. But the thing that I'm really excited about this season, I don't know if you are as a coach so much, but the opportunity we're getting at the Panther Classic about 2 weeks from now, we're in our pool. We're a school of 500,
Right.
and I think the next
Yeah.
the next smallest school is well over 1,000 kids, and
That's
we're
crazy.
playing Barrington, and we're playing, and that's Maple Park, Camelin, who's over 1,000 kids, but then Barrington, who's
Yes.
one of the bigger schools in
Played
4A,
last year.
and then
Yep.
Edwardsville too. How much do you just relish that opportunity to be able to go play those big schools and show them that, hey, even though we're this small school just north of Springfield, we can really hang with these big dogs.
Right. Yeah, it's kind of when we went up to Washington last year, it was quite a surreal experience. I think when you actually started to sit down and pull up the numbers, the enrollment numbers of some of the schools that we were playing. But athletics, it's an equalizer. Like, it doesn't matter how big your school is or how small your school is. If you have the athletes to compete, then that's really all that matters. And so we've kind of talked about it doesn't really matter who we're playing, if we don't play our best or if we play out of our minds, great, but it doesn't matter who you're playing, and we can't get wrapped up in that. But it's community. When we played them on Saturday morning, he said how excited he was to come to Springfield to UIS to be able to play Williamsville. And so I think I take it as a huge compliment coming from those coaches that they are excited to come and play us just as much as we're excited to go and play them. And we're really looking forward to going back up to Washington, and we were successful there last year, and I have no doubt that we'll be successful there again. But we look forward to that. We take it we take it seriously and really look forward to those games.
Well, Coach, once again, thank you so much for taking time to talk with us today. But before I let you go, anything else you'd like to add or tell the listeners out there?
No, I would just say that if you haven't made it out to a game, that you're really missing out. And if you can make it to a home game, that would be great. We don't have very many on the schedule this year. We're home next week on Thursday against Downs. And if you can make it out to a game, we'd love to see you.
Well, Coach, thank you again so much. Wish you the best of luck the rest of the season. When we return, we'll be joined by our 4 seniors this year, Megan Hall, Callie Sharp, Caitlin Womack, and Caitlin Termine.
If you can't make it out to the game, you don't have to worry about missing a moment of the action by following all BB and Bullet athletic happenings on Twitter at WCUSD15 Sports. And now back to the show.
Welcome back to Williamsville Sports Weekly, presented by Ed Legner, country insurance representative out of Sherman, Illinois. You can visit Ed for all your insurance and financial needs. Sitting with us right now, our 4 senior softball players, Megan Hall, Callie Sharp, Caitlin Termine, and Caitlin Womack. And girls, you're pretty nervous right now. And I mean, I think I eased your mind a little when I told everyone that this is not live. But why are interviews so nervous? I mean, you guys are out there, how fast, I guess, are some of these pitches that are coming? Has anyone ever told you guys how fast some of the pitches that come at you are when you guys are up there batting?
Well, the faster ones are like 60, 65, but like recently we've been seeing like in the 50s. That's as fast as a car's going on the interstate. I mean, isn't that much scarier than like just talking to me here with a microphone? I mean, it's just a conversation with a microphone. How is this scarier than that?
It's like really interesting because you think about how like we're a lot closer than like you're only 40 feet away from the pitcher who's throwing 65 at you, but this is more stressful than that.
So is this more stressful? Like I remember the big thing in high school, like the big scary class at least was speech. Like you had to get up and you had to like talk in front of people. I remember my speeches were about Star Wars, pro wrestling, and I can't remember what the how-to speech was, but those are my 3 speeches. Is this scarier than that?
Yeah. Yeah. I don't like to talk in front of people. I could definitely go out in front of a huge group of fans and mess up in a bat. I don't like to talk. So.
Obviously the 2 Caitlins have not said a word yet here. I don't know if we're going to get them to talk, but we'll get them to say something here eventually. But this is your guys' senior season. Obviously, there's always been high expectations with Williamsville softball. When Coach Grebner was coaching, obviously now with Coach Ashbaugh. And how does that feel for you guys? Because a lot of times, when people get expectations put on them about they're going to do a certain thing or people expect them to do a certain thing, that weighs them down. How do you guys as seniors in high school handle that, really pressure and challenge to live up to these expectations that have been built for a long time with this program?
I think that we have expectations from outside the softball team, but I don't think that's really what we focus on. We have our own expectations. Each individual player knows what they want to work on, what they want to achieve, and as a whole we know what we want to achieve at the end of the year, and I think that helps drive us to be better for ourselves and each other.
And one of the best thing that the coach will tell you is just focus on each play, each at bat, each pitch really, because it doesn't seem as daunting if you're just doing one thing at a time.
It kind of goes back to that old adage of when you're climbing a mountain, you look at it in steps, you look at it in stages, or you look at it, the big word, and Coach Hampton and I talked about this at the beginning of the show, the process, and just focusing on the process. When you guys came in as really 6th graders, did you think about this, this big entity of Williamsville softball is all? That probably seemed, this is a long time ago, really, 6 years ago now. When you get to my age, 6 years isn't that long of a time, but coming in as a 6th grader, was that there? Did you guys understand that?
really know anything about Williamsville. Like, I knew, like, they were always good, but I didn't know how big, like, how, like, important you feel, like, how much of a part of it you could become.
Yeah, I agree. I came to school in like 5th grade, so like going into 6th grade, I really didn't know very many people. So like softball was my way of like meeting everybody, but I didn't know like what Williamsville softball really was until high school.
Now, Caitlin, you're shaking your head over here. When did you come? Were you not here in 6th grade? Did you not participate in softball then? What's kind of your story with it?
6th grade year, I didn't go to school here. I moved here after softball season, 6th grade year. And then 7th grade year, I actually didn't make the team. So 8th grade year was my first year for Williamsville softball.
So talk to me about that. You didn't make the team your 7th grade year, and I'm sure at the time you're probably thinking, "Oh God, this is like huge. It's going to impact my life. I'm never going to do anything again. I'm going to live in a box down by the river." Because I know, like, that's how my mind works. I catastrophize things. So what lessons did you learn from that? Because obviously you're a senior now. You're on the team. You're contributing. What lesson do you take from not making it as a 7th grader to then making it for every year on out?
Not making it 7th grade really pushed me to work harder and told me that I needed to work on my skills a little bit more to get up to the level as the other girls, and the competition was a really big part of it.
Now, all 4 of you obviously don't just play school ball. So, softball is a huge sport all year long. Summer, and then now even with facilities like the Peak and Dragon Dome, the Louisville Slugger Complex up in Peoria. So you guys are playing it, constantly throughout the year. What's the big difference for you guys between school ball and non-school ball?
Summer ball, I feel like, is more not like relaxed. Like we still work our butts off throughout the summer but like, I don't know, school ball, you only get so much of it. Like in the summer, you have like 8 games a weekend, and then you practice through the weekdays, and it's like ever ending. I've played summer ball since 5th grade, and this past year was my last year, and it's just school ball, you only have 4 years with those girls, and I feel like that motivates you.
Yeah, kind of like what Callie said. Summer ball is really just a thing that keeps you into the sport, keeps you involved, really practicing to get you better. But then school ball comes around, you really have to focus and progress as a player overall. Because
And that's kind of where your guys' quote or motto for this season came from. Forever starts now. Talk to us, and Coach Ashbaugh let us in a little bit on where that came from, but talk to us about where that came from and what that means to not only you 4 but this particular group of girls this season, because this group will never to be together again, but you do have a great opportunity to have a huge impact and make you guys, almost immortal in a sense.
Well, like in summer ball, you win a summer ball tournament. It doesn't mean much, like, because there's always another tournament and every other team has another chance. But like with school ball, you're the best in the state if you're number 1, and that's just like, it's a lot more impressive than one tournament.
yeah, and like with the quote, "Forever starts now." We really just, our focus is to get our name out there and to really just be in the program forever as someone who made history, someone who really did something for the sport and helped grow as a sport.
Now, obviously, you guys had a disappointing loss last year, 2-1 to Gillespie in the sectional semis on a walk-off walk. And then even going back to your guys' sophomore season, Coach Grebner's last year, making it to the Supers and really just kind of getting waxed by St. Joe over there at Athens. They just, everything, it just seemed like was going everywhere in terms of their ability to hit that ball. But how much are you guys doing this for like the seniors from last year and the seniors from 2 years ago and Coach Grebner and the program as a whole about going and chasing these goals and these dreams that you guys have this year?
We were one of the last groups that got to be with Grebner. Us and the sophomores had her for 1 year, and it's just kind of like teaching the next group what she was all about and how we can keep it going on. And like, just because she's gone doesn't mean that we would stop playing how she wanted us to.
Whenever Coach Allen left, like her last game, she hugged me and told me like, I'll get there, I'll get my name on the banner. Like that was like her goal for us, is like to have our name up there. And I don't know, I feel like that motivated me. Like, I've never forgot, like, hugging her on her last game, and I don't know, that really motivated me to, like, want to win and get to that final point at the end of the year.
And obviously, you guys have had an impressive start. I think what are we, 11-0 right now?
Yeah.
And the interesting thing is, the amount of rain that we've had, and I know you guys are probably just sick and tired of being inside for practices, but you haven't had a game rained out yet. And the thing that blew me away is you guys played normal community last week, a team in 4A, and you guys have 5 or 6 games under your belt at that point. That's their first game of the season. How has that benefited you guys having so many more games up to this point than other teams?
It's really showed us that where we stand as in from last year to this year, and it really shows what we need to work on. And so getting those games in early helped us practice more of the stuff we needed to practice to get where we want to be eventually.
And you get the first game nerves out of the way. Like, I'm sure, like, the first game is you want to impress people, but, like, you have to just get used to it. Like, it takes a few games to know what you're about.
Now, obviously, there's only 4 of you guys. And the class behind you, I think, was there 9 or 10 of them? I mean, it's a very big, 10 juniors, very big class. And there's always been a lot of kind of focus on that class for what they did in junior high, winning IESA state and kind of setting that bar high as they've come in. But, the thing that I've heard about you 4 in particular is the leadership that you guys have had in terms of the roles you've been able to kind of fill, where you've been needed at. Talk to us about that a little bit and how important that is to make the girls under, below you in terms of classes, the juniors, the sophomores, the freshmen, even the 7th and 8th graders, of why it's important, to be a good teammate and to play the role that you're given on any particular team.
Well, like, I've had experience because I started, freshman and sophomore year, and then, like, I didn't play as much last year. But it's kind of like, I mean, for one, it's humbling because, like, you want the best for the whole team. And, like, and if you're not in, you need to be up and supportive of everyone else. Because, like, you just can't be down on yourself. You have to know that, like, it's for the whole team. And, like, just you as a person is not going to impact the whole game. You need to, like, everybody needs to support each other. And, like, girls might not understand that, like, when they're younger. And if they're like, I want to play. I just want to be the only one out there. But you need to know, like, it's about everyone. It's not just you.
And that's not only an important lesson like now, but I mean a huge life lesson. There's a lot of adults that I know that, they're always complaining, I'm not getting what I want. I'm not, in the position I want. But, to be successful, whether it's on a team, as a family, in a job, everyone has a particular role to play. The other thing that I want to ask you guys real quickly here before we wrap up a little bit, is the schedule that we play. We're a 2A school, and I always meet with the coaches in terms of structuring our schedule, making it the best possible. When you're looking at the bigger schools we play, do you guys even care about that? I mean, or do you think our reputation kind of precedes ourselves?
I like playing the big schools. Like, you can go and play teams that it's going to be an easy game, but, like, that doesn't push you. Like, you want to push yourself. You want to know, like, can I beat this team? Like, can I go out and, like, out-hit this team? Like, and when you do, that's, like, an amazing feeling. And it, like, brings you together as a team.
Also, with just bigger teams, 3A, 4A, even 5A that we've seen, they're not really teams that we see as bigger population. We more see them as a team that, okay, we need to go out there and work our best and hit our best to get the best result.
And, like, really important, like, on any day, any team can beat any other team, which is, like, what you learn from that. Like, even if, like, if you think you're better than someone else, you can get your butt whooped. You have to be ready to, like, play to the highest level that you can.
And I think that's the big thing that you've learned from Coach Ashbaugh. What she always talks about is focusing on what you can do and what you can control. And that's a big thing in life, is controlling what you can control. And I think that's, you guys always have talked about, taking one game at a time, one bat at a time, one inning at a time. And I go back to the game, I think it was maybe Barrington last year. It was up at the Washington tournament where you guys came back in the bottom of the sixth and bottom of the seventh and ended up winning that game. And so that's a perfect example right there of just focusing on those little things and controlling what you can control. Girls, once again, thank you so much for coming on today. I know you have a game tomorrow. When we post this, it'll be today, but Warrensburg, and then North Mac, another big conference game this weekend before you go into spring break, and you got some big games next week. So before we let you go, though, anything else you'd like to add or tell the listeners out there?
Just thank you to the parents and my teammates and the coaches, because without them we wouldn't really be here. They do a lot for us.
I'd like to thank my parents for supporting me all the way through and keeping me grounded no matter what. And I want to thank the teammates for pushing each of us to get better, because it's always competitive, and the coaches for keeping us focused and knowing what we want to accomplish.
Yeah, I would like to thank my parents, who've really taught me to stay focused and push myself. Also, my coaches, all of the coaches I've had through my experiences, Grebner, Allen, Ashbaugh, they've all taught me that no matter what happens, you just keep pushing yourself, you move forward. And also my teammates, because they're also the people that really help you, that contribute to the team, and they really keep you focused.
I'd like to thank my parents for always being there, always supporting me, pushing me to be my best, driving me to all the practices whenever I couldn't drive. And then I'd like to thank my teammates, my coaches, for pushing me, giving me a competitive spirit, always telling me what I need to work on.
The driving is huge, because I'm in that right now with dance and softball, and believe me, and even just sitting there. Try sitting in a dance class for 2 straight hours. Yeah, it's really not, but we do it because we love our kids. So now, girls, we're done. We're done recording. Was this as bad as you thought it was going to be?
No. It was okay.
It's not as bad. It's just talking to a microphone. That's all it is. Well, girls, once again, thank you so much. Best of luck the rest of this season. I'm sure we'll be talking about this a lot more. Obviously, come out to Jane Grebner Field and see you guys play, or even some of the close games next week. We got a close one over in Tri-City on Monday, as long as the rain holds off. So we'll see. But when we return, we'll take a look ahead at the upcoming week for both the BBs and the Bullets.
Next time you're in the market for insurance or financial planning, stop by and see Country Financial Representative Ed Legner at 318 Crossing Drive in Sherman, or give him a call at 217-496-2341. And now, back to the show.
Welcome back to Williamsville Sports Weekly, presented by Ed Legner, Country Insurance Representative out of Sherman, Illinois. You can visit Ed for all your insurance and financial needs. It's really great to hear in that interview, both with Coach Ashbaugh and then our 4 seniors, Callie Sharp, Megan Hall, Caitlin Termine, and Caitlin Womack, with just how humble they are, and that's a big thing, with athletes, is how you win and how you lose, and it's you win with grace and you lose with grace, and you can tell listening to those girls that's been instilled to them throughout their careers here at Williamsville within the softball program. And our athletes do that in all of our sports. Yesterday during Captain's Council, Coach Coons was having a lesson about critics and facing criticism, both negative and positive criticism. And he said, the big thing that he really enjoys coaching here is how we win and how we lose, in a humble manner. And that's very important, to not get too high, get too low, and kind of stay even keel. And that's a credit to our coaches and to the parents and families within the Williamsville and Sherman communities as well, with how those kids act and how they act the right way. And we really preach that of doing the right thing and doing it the Bullet way and having a tradition of excellence. And that starts with how you act when you win and lose. And you could really hear that through the girls' interviews. And when you do that and you focus on what you can control and not what other people do to you or worry about that, good things tend to happen. And I think they have a great opportunity to, etch their name in Bullet lore with how they finish this season. So obviously it's still early in. They've got 11 games underneath their belt, another one tonight against Warrensburg. But we wish them the best of luck the rest of this year, and hopefully you guys can get out to a game and see them in what could very well be a historic year. So just have to wait and see on that. Won't have a show next week as we're on spring break. A lot of events going on that you guys can see. They're all up on the webpage, wcsd15.org. So make sure you guys get out to event. Hopefully we don't have as many cancellations next week based on the rain, but if we do, we'll get that information posted not only on the website, wcsd15.org, but on Twitter as well at wcsd15sports. So like I said, hopefully you guys can get out to a few games. Hope you have a wonderful and safe spring break. But until we return, remember, it's always better to be a Bullet.